Guys, J-Force here. I know a lot of you are trying to make a purchase decision on which gaming laptop to buy, and there are a lot of choices on the market right now. Generally, there are two categories of gaming laptops. The thin and light gaming laptops that's slightly less powerful and produce more heat, and your performance-oriented larger laptops that are a little better spec'd. So today I'll be doing a comparison video on two laptops with similar performance, but targeted at different markets. So we have the thin and light gaming laptop, the Asus ROG Zephyrus M15, and a performance-oriented MSI GP65 Leopard 10 SEK. Let's get into the reviews. Alright, so let's start off with the GP65 Leopard. First thing I want to discuss is the price, as you can't review without keeping the price and budget in mind. The MSI GP65 has a regular price of $13.99 on Amazon, and it's not the cheapest, but you can always get a used or refurbished model for around $1,200, which is a great price. The ROG Zephyrus M15 is $15.79 at Best Buy, and at the time of this review you can sign up with a student coupon and get $100 off. So, given that the GP65 is a little cheaper than the M15, will that show in terms of performance and build quality? So let's find out now. The GP65, you can see in front of me right here. Let's try to open with one hand. Okay, a slight wobble there, but not really a big problem. This laptop is a little heavier at 5.1 pounds or 2.3 kilograms. It's mostly made of plastic, but it does have a metallic back cover. This back cover is actually like a fingerprint magnet, as you can see here. Every bit of touch, it'll leave a trace. So keep in mind of that. Don't try to do bad things with this, or you're gonna leave evidence all over the place. So actually, the build quality is surprisingly good for what I consider a budget to mid-range option. And let's check out the port selection. The MSI GP65 has two USB-A ports, one SD card, full-size SD card reader. This is the charger. There's no ports on the back, just a whole lot of vents. And on the left side, you have a Kensington lock, a full-size Ethernet cable, Ethernet port, HDMI, mini display port, another USB-A, and a USB Type-C, and you have a separated microphone and headphone jacks. So this Type-C connector is actually not Thunderbolt 3, but you can hook it up to displays as its Type-C Gen 3.2. Alright, oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, you cannot charge this laptop with USB Type-Cs. Alright, so onto the keyboard and touchpad. This keyboard is actually made by SteelSeries, and it's actually very comfortable to type on. As someone who uses mechanical keyboards a lot, this has a kind of a tactile feeling to this. So definitely very comfortable. And you have this slightly pushed to the left touchpad. The touchpad itself I have no problems with. Is these two actual buttons. It just feels very outdated, and you can they're very prone to dust and water if you ever get things spilled on your laptop. So compared to this, I would prefer something like the Razer touchpads or the upcoming M15 touchpad that I'll be reviewing. You can check that out later. But yeah, this keyboard does feature RGB per key lighting, which is pretty good. The MSI, you can customize it in the MSI Dragon Center, but for these budget MSI laptops, I just feel like their lighting effects are not as pretty, or the colors that are not as vibrant and as bright as their top end top spec options like the GE66 Raider. So I can show you a little bit. Let me turn this on. All right, so this is, I've already did some customization to this keyboard. But you can see, this light, it's not very bright. It's got a kind of like a cool color to it. But yeah, so let's move on to the M15. Moving on to the M15, this laptop is a lot lighter than the GP65. This one is 4.1 pounds or 1.9 kilograms. One of the lightest 15-inch laptops or gaming laptops on the market. I know the Electronics Mac 15 is advertised as the lightest gaming laptop, 15-inch gaming laptop. And that one is at 1.8 kilograms. So just slightly lighter than this one. But they're both made of magnesium alloy, which is why they're both very light. So this one actually has very good build quality. The back cover, it's kind of got like a matte finish to it, and it's not very prone to fingerprints. As you can see, you don't really see any of my fingerprints here. So, perfect tool for your crimes. And the back cover has these dotted design that kind of look like the design for the G14, except they have like a shiny, prism-like color, which is why this is called the prism gray color. So onto the port selection. On the right, we have a Thunderbolt Type-C connector. This one actually features power delivery, so you can charge this laptop with like a 65-watt charger. You probably can't game on it, but if you're outside and you're running out of juice, you can just plug this up with the 65-watt-hour Type-C. 2 USB-A connectors, one Kensington lock. Nothing on the back. A whole lot of vents on the bottom as well. And on the left, you have your charger, which is actually, I prefer this one over the GP65 because if you're playing with your mouse, if you're gaming, you definitely won't be. The charger for the GP65 is on the right, so that's going to get in the way of your mouse. So yeah, this is definitely better. You have your Ethernet, full-size Ethernet port, HDMI, another USB-A, separated headphone, and mic jacks. So these actually, they both feature separated headphone and mic jacks, which is actually quite good. If you do own like a pair of higher end headphones, they have inbuilt DAC, so you can just plug it up. I don't know how much resistance they'll support, but I assume 80 to 100 you can probably do fine with these. And onto the keyboard and touchpad. So the keyboard on these, they have like a kind of like a tactile feeling to it, kind of similar to the MSI's. Oh, let me just turn this off so I show my login credentials and everything. Oh, I just showed. Whoops. Anyways, so yeah, these kind of have a tactile feeling to them. All right, whatever. So the travel distance is a little smaller. So it's how should I say this? It's a little worse, I guess, to the Steel series, but it's definitely usable, very comfortable. It doesn't have your numpad though, so that could be a turnoff. But as for me, I use 10 keyless mechanical keyboards all the time, so this is not a problem. It's just a very your traditional ROG layout. This is pretty much what it looks like on all the other ROG laptops, and yeah, the touchpad, it feels a lot better than the MSI actually, and I love these inbuilt click buttons. You can actually click like over here too, so yeah, these just feel a lot smoother, and they're centered, so I like that. I don't like to move my hand over here if I'm like trying to type something. You know, if I'm trying to play with my hands on the WASD, that's not gonna work for the GP65. But yeah, I definitely like these ones. Um, the keyboard itself doesn't have per key RGB. This one only has one single zone RGB. But I do hear words that there is a brushed black color with RGB keyboard and a 2070 Super apparently. But so far I've not seen that model on sale. I have talked to the Asus support. They don't seem to know, don't even that's going to be released in North America. So don't get your hopes up. I do see that there is a higher spec, the S15, that basically looks like this with a RGB keyboard that has better specs and better screen. But that one's going to cost you a lot more at $23.99, and it hasn't been released yet. Okay, so next up, let's test the speakers on these two laptops. I have loaded up some non-copyrighted music, and I have turned up the volume to 100%. So let's first hear the MSI GP65. Alright, so next is the Asus M15. Just pictures on these walls, reminding me of how you threw away all that we've gone through. Was it all just a game to you? 'Cause I'm dying to know. Why do you wanna? Alright, so that was the speakers test. As you can probably hear that the GP65 didn't stand a chance. I'm sorry. The bass was really muddy. You can't really hear the bass actually. And the highs and lows, everything was just bad. The M15 was definitely better in every category, hands down. It wasn't quite as loud, but that's probably the only thing that's better on the GP65, honestly. Alright, so if you don't have a pair of gaming headsets, you know which one to buy, because this one has hands down way better speakers than the MSI. And next up, let's talk about performance, because we buy these gaming laptops to game. And first, let's talk about the CPU. Both of these are running an Intel 10th Gen Core i7 10750H. It's a relatively new CPU on the market, not the fastest, especially compared to the AMD 4000 series. However, do keep in mind that if you're looking to buy a gaming laptop, the first thing you should worry about is the gaming performance. And for gaming, if you have, given the same graphics card, a 10750 or 10875 or a Ryzen 7 4800, they're going to give you relatively, about the same performance. It's mostly, bottlenecked by the GPU, not the CPU. So, they're both definitely very capable if you want to work on your daily tasks. But for gaming, don't expect any differences whatsoever. Yeah, speaking of, bottlenecked by the GPU, let's talk about it. We have a very interesting comparison between two of the very popular configurations on the market. The Asus is equipped with a RTX 2070 Max-Q, and the GP65 here has the RTX 2060 Max-P. Now, if you don't know what a Max-Q or Max-P means, basically the difference is that Max-Q draws less power than a Max-P version in order to reduce heat emission, so that manufacturers, they can fit more powerful GPUs into these smaller laptops. And you can probably guess these Max-Q variants, they have a little worse performance compared to a Max-P. So these two cards over here, in theory they should have very close gaming performance. But the Max Q one should give us a little better temperatures. So I ran some timespy, 3D Mark's timespy benchmark on both of these. Now for both laptops, you have numerous configurations to get your ideal performance, heat, and fan noise. So for benchmark, I put both of them on performance mode. Uh, then I used turbo on both of them to check, what's the maximum performance you can get out of them. And here's the result. All right, so here are the scores from timespy. The left two are the MSI GP65, and the two on the right are the Asus M15. As you can see under performance mode, there really isn't that much of a difference. The FPS, you're basically within 1 FPS of each other. The only one that stands out is the M15 when it's on turbo mode with the fans maxed out. You can get, about 10% increase in terms of performance. So that could be very nice, if you're trying to play a very high-end AAA title. But all in all, it's not that different, honestly. And the first thing I actually noticed was that the MSI GP65 was actually thermal throttling a little bit, with the CPU temperature averaging about 85 degrees, and it reached a maximum of 96 degrees. So that was actually under performance and extreme modes, the turbo modes. So this impacted the gaming performance a little bit. I was getting a little lower scores, about 65 to 6300 on timespy. The Asus, much like all the ROG's new lineup of laptops, they have liquid metal pre-applied from factory. So that's probably why it's doing better in terms of the CPU temperatures. The maximum I was getting was around 89 to 90 degrees. And so after a little tweaking on the MSI, I was able to undervolt and underclock it to improve the thermals actually very significantly. I got down from 84 degrees average to 73 degrees on average, and a maximum of 90 degrees, which is basically, on par with the Zephyrus. I didn't do any underclocking or undervolting for the Zephyrus. You can probably improve the performance here as well. Since it was already doing pretty well, I figured, I don't have to do it. But yeah, so on performance mode, after underclocking, the GP65 actually scored 6749, which is actually really impressive. For this laptop, the CPU actually scored higher, as you can see here, than the M15. So, but one thing to keep in mind is that these two laptops, they get really noisy when you're on turbo mode. The fans, they crank up really loudly. And next, I'll show you some fan noises. In order to maximize the performance, you can use two of the pre-configured softwares, the MSI Dragon Center and the Asus Armory Crate. So on the MSI, if I turn on Cooler Boost and I have Extreme Performance mode, keep in mind you have to have these, both plugged in to turn on these modes. So this is what it sounds like to have fans at maximum. Okay. Let's turn that off. Sounds like you're at the airport. All right, so next is the M15. A little bit better on this one. The fans don't crank up to be that loud, but it's still pretty noisy. If you're to game on this, I would get pretty annoyed. So usually I just put it on performance. But if you want that maximum power, maximum FPS, then do as you please. So next, let's talk about the displays. As if you're a PC gamer like me, it's very important. You know, you want that maximum refresh, lowest response time in order to get that smooth and responsive gaming experience. So these two laptops, they both feature 1080p IPS panel. They both have great colors, very close to 100% sRGB. Probably a little worse on the MSI. I don't know for sure because I don't do content creation, so I don't care about it as much. As long as the colors look accurate to my eyes, that's okay for me. And the M15 here actually has a 240 hertz 3ms response time at 350 nits brightness. So this is actually one of the best screens you can look for in a gaming laptop, especially at this price range. The MSI is not too shabby with a 144 hertz refresh rate, um, also around 3 millisecond of response time and 350 nits. So other than the refresh rate difference, there really isn't that much of a gap between them. And in terms of gaming, in normal use, you can't really. I wouldn't say it's too big of a difference actually. Going from 60 to 144 is definitely a huge jump, but from 144 to 240, you know, you can probably tell a little bit, but it's not that much of a difference. Um, so yeah, that's it in terms of the displays. Next, let's talk about upgrades and expansions. The GP65 has two RAM slots that you can, upgrade, whereas the Zephyrus 15, you have 8 gigs of soldered RAM, so you can only swap out one of them. The GP65 has a 2.5 inch SATA SSD slot and two NVMe SSDs, one of which is occupied by the 512 gig Lideon SSD that comes with it. This is at the cost of a smaller battery, 51 watt hours. It's probably one of the worst battery lives for gaming computers, gaming laptops. So it'll last about 3 to 4 hours for normal use out of the factory. So if you keep using it, that's gonna deteriorate. And for the Zephyrus M15, you can put another NVMe SSD in. This came with a 1 terabyte Intel 660p, which is an okay NVMe drive. It's not the fastest, but it's pretty good. Not it doesn't have DRAM, so it's not as like a good booting drive. But you do have another NVMe slot if you choose to upgrade it. There is no 2.5-inch drive bay, but it does have a 76 watt hour battery, which is actually advertised to be 6 to 7 hours on normal use. So in conclusion, I would prefer the M15 over the GP65 at full price, since this is $13.99 and this is $15.79. It's only $180 more expensive, and you get a marginally better GPU, a marginally better screen, a bit more storage, so you don't have to upgrade that. But just this lightweight build quality, it's a lot more portable, and I like to have that Thunderbolt and Type-C charging feature as well. But if you're into, value per dollar just for gaming performance, the GP65 is definitely the better choice. It's cheaper, even though it features a 2060 versus a 2070. You might think, oh, this might perform worse, but actually it's you know basically the same card if you don't use turbo on this one. So, and if you can get this at a discount, it's definitely worth your money. If you like this comparison, please give me a like and subscribe.